whatever it is that you want to do, you just really got to focus on what do you want to produce, right? What the outcome would look like. It's like you said earlier, what's the good deal look like to you? Like if it's perfect, what would it look like? Is it because you're gonna make 100,000? Is it because you're gonna own this beautiful complex? Whatever that is, your advice is to take a moment and really picture that. Write it down. Maybe post it on the wall to remind yourself so you don't stray out of your box.
And V, I would take it one step further. You can do that, but it's also important to understand what your values are. So all of your decisions should be based upon your values. We call it values-based decision making. And if you don't know what your values are, or you think you may not
Not
be living,
emotional, because that's where you that's where you can lose money, right?
Exactly. But I'll give you an example. For me, multifamily works really well for me. I'm responsible. I like control. I have a long-term mindset. Those all fit really well with multifamily. And those are my values. Every decision I make is based on those values. So for me, investing in Bitcoin and trying to trade it and trying to make a couple points on Bitcoin is not really going to bring me value.
You don't like that instant gratifications like most of us do?
Yes. Well, I mean, instant, but it's fleeting. I don't want the dopamine hit. I'm just saying, for me, that doesn't align. So for somebody else, that may be their persona. They like taking risk. They like having a lot of fun with investments. My values are different. And I think if people want to really understand what their component, what their makeup is, understand what your values are, and every decision you make, whether you're marrying your spouse, whether you're taking a job, whether you're investing in an asset, whether you're buying a home, renting, car, whatever it is, make it based on your values. And if something feels off or doesn't feel right, subconsciously or unconsciously, it's not really aligning with what you believe or what you value.
It's so important. I agree with you. You say make it around your value, and I also use the same analogy. Build, businesses or everything you do around your strengths, your weaknesses, and your core values, right? So yes, it's so important. That leads me to the next question. Do you see a correlation between multifamily and single family, market cycle?
That's a great question. As far as correlation, I would correlate them in the fact that they should all be run as a business. I think the problem with the single family home space is there's a lot of mom and pops, and there are multifamily, but they view it as, let me buy 1 or 2 or 5 or 7, and not really think of it as a scalable operation. They have very little systems, and this is just from my experience. I've dealt and spoken to a lot of people in the single family space that end up joining Jake and Gino, and I see the differences. And there are also people in the multifamily space that are mom and pops, but the multifamily space lends it more towards systems and processes, and it is easier and scalable. But I think if a single family home investor does it, and I've met a bunch, I met a couple. I actually spoke to one yesterday who has, I think, over 300 single family homes, and they keep buying them. But he has processes, he has systems, he has this third party property management running the asset, right? And he's got investors and he's raising capital. So it's very similar and complementary. Right? At the end of the day, they both should be run as a business. They both should be following the buy right, the manage right, and the finance right, because you should buy a single family home properly, you should finance it properly, and once those two legs have done, or the wheelbarrow that we call, you should always be managing it. Now, as far as I'm trying to think of the correlation between market cycles, great question. In 2022, multifamily peaked, down 22% since then. Cap rates have been decompressing slowly. It's interesting to think about single families, what's going on. I think also from a national perspective versus localized, they're both very localized, because down here in Florida, there's still a lot of demand and not as much supply.
Yeah, I think the real estate is actually a local market,
Yes.
Investment. It's market to market. It's my saying is the national, articles, and that's for selling clicks and views. We always have to look at it from the local. And the reason why I ask that question is I see this often. People who come into single family because they feel like that's where they have to start.
Yes.
and then they get a few deals under their belt, and then they go, okay, I got to graduate to multifamily. So a couple years ago, we saw a large amount of people from single family want to go do
Yes.
multifamily. And then now we're seeing people from multifamily jumping back into single family. So I was just curious that with your knowledge that if you can see a correlation to see like if one go up, the other goes down, or, if they have any relation at all.
I think the problem is that people don't understand there's a couple of big differences between multifamily and single family. One of them is in multifamily, it's not an MLS-driven market. You need to create relationships with brokers. That's the reality. You can do some off-market deals, but the vast majority of them, you're not calling up a 30-unit owner and saying, hey, can I buy your... That doesn't really happen as much in multifamily. Understanding that is one of the benefits when you get into multifamily. You can reach out to the brokers and create relationships, and that's where you're going to get deals. Whereas in single family, you're on MLS, you're on Zillow, you're on Realtor.com. You can get more deal flow that way. And the second component to multifamily versus single family that's different is the debt side. Whereas in the single-family residential, the mortgages are 30-year, they're amortizing it for 30 years. Whereas in commercial, some of them, the vast majority of them, have a term on them. Whether they're 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, they balloon or they reset. And understanding that component is, I think, one of the reasons why people get into multifamily. They don't understand those two components, then they jump back into single-family. I would just say whatever niche you like, learn it and stick with it, because I don't think one is any better than the other.
I'm sorry for this interruption. I've been asked a lot about passive investments, and let's be real. There is nothing passive about being a landlord unless you have a really good property management company. So if you own an Airbnb or a short-term rental and you want to get back your time, please give our team at Buzz Vacation Rental a call at 281-549-8432 or go to our website at pm.buzzvacationrentals.com.